Good morning. I'm Frank Kaufmann, the president of the Settlement Project. Today is March 4th, 2021. I'd like to offer a few thoughts, purely personal opinion, on some contemporary matters of U.S. political reality today. I'd like to designate March 4th as the official day of competing wacky conspiracy theories. There's one on the left and one on the right. The one on the right is widely described as pure cult-like obsession. The one on the left, however, is fully supported by mainstream media and fully in the hands of the community that controls the entire United States of America, its elected officials, its army, and its institutions that are responsible for the maintenance of life in the United States. So, wacky theories meet in the ring today, March 4th. And here are the place where they meet. Washington Examiner. House to leave town early ahead of March 4th possible plot to breach the Capitol. All right, this March 4th possible plot to breach the Capitol is the place where two conspiracy theories meet. The conspiracy theory of QAnon on the one hand, and the conspiracy theory of the United States government and the entire mainstream media and the army and police that the left control presently with the Biden administration. Wacky conspiracy theory 2. So, wacky conspiracy theory 1, Business Insider says, why QAnon followers are pinning their last desperate hopes on Trump emerging as president on March 4th. Desperate hopes. Okay. Washington Examiner, which sometimes gets close to establishing itself as somewhat of responsible media, reports this. The House moved to adjourn a day early this week after law enforcement officials reported a new threat against the Capitol timed for Thursday. House Democrat leaders informed lawmakers Wednesday they'll wrap up legislative business late Wednesday rather than Thursday afternoon. They cleverly skipped town a day early before Insurrection Chapter 2 happens today, Wednesday. That QAnon followers and militias are carefully planning to attack and violently overturn the United States government today, and by sheer force bring President Trump triumphantly back to his proper perch as President of the United States. The House, continue reading, the House will vote to pass sweeping election reform bill and legislation to reform policing. The House had initially scheduled to remain in session until Thursday afternoon. U.S. Capitol Police, the very people who are on video allowing and ushering protesters into the Capitol on the day of this horrifying riot, are now reporting that they have, here's the quote, intelligence that shows a possible plot to breach the Capitol by an unidentified malicious group on Thursday, March 4th. Okay, so suddenly now this group that couldn't keep a couple of hundred people out of the Capitol and end up shooting unarmed citizens, can't find a single weapon. They can't find a single weapon from these couple of hundred people that stormed the Capitol. Now they're suddenly so sharp that now they have intelligence that shows a possible plight. Police said that they are prepared for any threat. All right, now they're ready. Unlike January 6th when they were ushering in people and showing them ways upstairs and kind of walking behind Mr. Viking Man as he kind of casually strolled up to the podium to get a picture of himself. Okay, reading. Police say they're prepared for anything. All right, Capitol is guarded by thousands of National Guard troops in addition to the police, and the entire campus is surrounded by non-scalable fencing topped with barbed wire. Unlike the wall at our southern border that faces legislation to have it removed, our Capitol, on the other hand, has been built by an instantly arising non-scalable fence topped with barbed wire, and thousands of National Guard troops. So, all right, you or me or the country itself shouldn't really have any way to keep people in or out, good people or bad, but the Capitol is so important that it should have thousands of troops in the street and unscalable walls and topped with barbed wire. Okay, so maybe we've just contracted the people who should be protected in America down to those couple of hundred people, just in case a QAnon army storms in and threatens them and has them hide behind their desks. The Business Insider, Why QAnon Followers Are Pinning Their Last Hopes, it says the following: Donald Trump's triumphant return to power, how Caesar-like, on March 4th may be another wacky QAnon fantasy. All right, that particular fantasy is wacky, but authorities are taking no chances. Congress is closed and the lawmakers have left town. The lawmakers have outwitted this mysterious militia that's going to take over the United States government by leaving town. That's how they are going to protect the sanctity of our great land. They've outwitted this mysterious army that's going to storm the Capitol, and they've quickly left town. Capitol Police are on high alert, and 5,000 National Guardsmen are on standby in case of another violent attack on American democracy. The Business Insider report continues: QAnon followers unable to cope with Joe Biden's elevation to the president in January have now co-opted a new belief to argue that the next legitimate inauguration date will be March 4th. And that's what makes this date so horrifying, so frightening, so positively horrific, that the lawmakers have secretly left town in the dead of night to be safe, and they've invited 5,000 military figures to stand in front of an unscalable wall with a barbed wire fence. Because, why? Because QAnon followers are unable to cope with Joe Biden's elevation to president. Basically, it's a matter of coping. It's a group of people who can't cope. And thus, as a result of not being able to cope, now they have formed an army that would take over the U.S. government, probably, very possibly also with zero guns, the same way on the January 6th, quote-unquote, insurrection had zero guns, other than the one used to kill the only person killed during the time of the time that the protesters were inside the Capitol. And that was by a Capitol Police person whose name was never released, who's in hiding, and who we know nothing about the process whereby he is being investigated for the point-blank murder of an unarmed United States veteran and U.S. citizen. Now, here's another newspaper called the Washington Times. The Washington Times was once one of the most hated things in America. It was hated worse than Fox is hated today. U.S. legislators have called upon cable providers to bar Fox News from appearing in American media. So Fox News is a real threat. And the Washington Times used to be hated even more than that. It actually dared to represent some conservative points of view. And that very paper, which nicknames itself America's paper. Here's its report. Here's part of its report on this great dangerous day when our nation is in danger of being overtaken by a mysterious army of cult followers. Wacky, yes, they're wacky, but they're a threat to the security of the United States of America. That's why we have an unscalable wall and 5,000 National Guard at the ready. So here's the Washington Times, America's newspaper, Mr. Conservative Voice. Here's what Washington Times, far-right conspiracy theorists believe 2020 president election was stolen from Mr. Trump, who has raised unfounded allegations of voter fraud. That's interesting. The next paragraph. At first, QAnon supporters believed that Mr. Trump would not leave office on Inauguration Day. Instead, declare martial law, announce mass arrests of Democrats, and stop President Biden from being inaugurated. Okay, President Trump never, ever, ever, ever gave any indication ever that he would ever do any such thing as not leave office. His departure from office was one of the most elegant and mature series of steps imaginable, given the circumstances. And so you have people who somehow, contrary to all evident belief, held that Mr. Trump would not leave office. And of course, media figures and mainstream media kind of were preparing to have to send in military people to drag Mr. Trump out of his office, because he would refuse to leave. All contrary to any evidence whatsoever. But here's the thing that disturbs me here on this particular paragraph. Why would the Washington Times, of all newspapers, have a sentence in this particular report, which is nuts, that March 4th there's going to be some secret army? Maybe they might have one pea shooter, unlike that there were zero arms in the so-called January 6th insurrection. Zero. But maybe this new army might have a pea shooter, so we're ready with 5,000 National Guard. But the Washington Times says Mr. Trump raised unfounded allegations of voter fraud. Why would the Washington Times call them unfounded allegations of voter fraud? There are literally hundreds, if not thousands, of verifiable evidences of voter fraud. Anyone can look them up. They exist by the hundreds, if not thousands. They're on the record under sworn affidavits of count after count after count of voter fraud, voter irregularities, ballot intimidation of people who are meant to watch and verify ballots. There are tens of unconstitutional acts by state secretaries of state, governors, putting in last-minute regulations that are illegal in the voting. So there's the Times. Okay. Thank you very much, Washington Times, for helping us understand that Mr. Trump has raised unfounded allegations of voter fraud. Okay, that's good to know that they're unfounded. In the U.S. News, the quote reads, We have obtained intelligence that shows a possible plot to breach the Capitol by an identified militia group on Thursday, March 4th. The department said Wednesday. We have already made security upgrades to include establishing a physical structure, increasing manpower to ensure the protection of Congress, the public, and our police officers. All right, good. Okay, good. They're concerned about the protection of police officers. That's new. Very good. Okay, there's progress there. Maybe there's a silver lining in this perpetuation of a narrative that being a conservative makes you a violent hater of the stability of the American political process. All right. So conspiracy theory 1, there's some secret military group operating that is going to arrest all the bad guys and just wait, this will happen. This will happen on December 14th. No, just wait. This will happen on December 20th. No, just wait. This will happen on January 6th. No, just wait. This will happen on January 20th. No, just wait. This will happen on March 4th. That is the conspiracy theory of a particular community of people, not limited to QAnon, who have their spokespeople who are constantly putting forth secret information, ranging anywhere from some kind of MI6 leak, all the way to aliens from outer space telling them what's what. Okay, fine enough. We've always had groups of people who have aliens telling them what's what. It used to be allowed, but now that several hundred people made people cower behind their desks, and even brought to tears people who were in other places around the city, not even anywhere near the Congress building, and people who were not even in the city at all, back home in their congressional districts, were also kind of so horrified and terrified that they broke down in tears on the Congress floor, telling of their tale of fear. Okay, so we have one group that has to kind of hide in the shadows and sneak around and pass videos that haven't been spotted and censored and locked down and forbidden. And so they're secretly passing around videos. Some guy that gets secret information from the MI6 or from outer space telling them that there's going to be a plan, that some kind of secret military power is going to arrest everybody in the world except President Trump's going to be president. Okay. I don't mind conspiracy theories. They're fun enough. They're fun enough. There's always people that hold them. There's certain psychology that goes along with them, and they used to be allowed. But January 6th, a couple hundred people, quote unquote, stormed the Capitol, and so now we're no longer dealing with some cult with odd beliefs. Now we're dealing with people who are they're going to take over the United States government. All right. So we better build a wall. At least now we have one wall in America. It happens to be protecting Democrat Congress people. Okay, better protect some Americans rather than none at all. All right. So we got that, and so. What I want to point out, although I'm being a little bit flippant here, it's a deadly serious thing. It irritates me and aggravates me, but it is a unified determination to create a narrative of fear of people who hold political beliefs different than your own. Now, it's one thing to be a conspiracy theory sneaking around, passing around videos in email or through Telegram, but it's a different thing to hold a conspiracy theory in which you control the United States government and its entire military, and you have a weirder conspiracy theory than the QAnon people. The conspiracy theory being put forward by the New York Times, MSNBC. The New York Times is central to creating the conspiracy theory by perpetrating the Sicknick lie. The Sicknick lie that some Trump supporter killed a cop. Suddenly, the Times cares about cops. All right, that's new. But it turned out to be an absolute lie. And the idea of the violent Trump supporter is an absolute invention. It's truly not the case. President Trump gathered hundreds of thousands of people and in veritable love fests, unlike the Portland love fest, in which people were stabbed to death and women were raped every night. That particular love fest has a different taste or quality than the Trump rallies. The Trump rallies really were love fests. Anybody that ever went to one, they were just people just having a good time. So the determination to create a narrative that Trump supporters are dangerous is a very sophisticated and very determined and very calculated perpetration of a conspiracy theory. It's just false belief. I don't think that any of the Democrats or I don't think anybody in CNN, I don't think any of the Capitol Police or any of the Biden administration, I don't think they're claiming to have their information from aliens or the MI6 is secretly telling them. But now it's close to like the MI6. We have intelligence that there's a plan to storm the Capitol. So there's secret, it's two conspiracy theories. Only one's running the entire media, the entire tech platform, is running Google, running Facebook, running Twitter, running MSNBC, running CBS, ABC, running the United States government. They're perpetrating a conspiracy theory based on secret information. And then you have this odd little group of people, you can't even find them. They're floating around in these secret little spaces trying to pass around a video or two. And so here's your elected representatives fleeing town in the dead of night, secretly outwitting these people by leaving Wednesday night when the marauders are planned to attack Thursday. Darn it. We really wanted to make them hide behind their desks again and start crying again. And they left town. They beat us on that one. All right, so there's a next video. I'm just gonna podcast. I'm just gonna make it separately. But it's about Trump and CPAC. I have some positive things about it, and I have some criticisms and concerns about it as well. I'll make that into a separate podcast. Thanks a lot for listening.